Hello, my friends. This is Menopause Taylor bringing you the state of menopause in the world today. Are you starting to understand the whole phenomenon of menopause and heart attacks? You see, I started many podcasts ago teaching you all about it. And gosh, I'm still talking about it. I've been talking about it for weeks. Now, that should tell you something. It should tell you that this phenomenon of heart attacks at menopause is ultra, ultra, ultra important. Not only have I taught you about the statistics, the causes, the symptoms, and the risk factors for a heart attack, I've also given you management options in the categories of diet, lifestyle, vitamins, minerals, and supplements, herbs, and hormones for preventing a heart attack. And the management option of hormones includes using HRT for the secondary benefit of preventing a heart attack. Now, I say secondary benefit. The only reason I say secondary benefit is because nowadays, unlike previously, the benefit of preventing a heart attack is considered a secondary benefit. It used to be that the primary benefit, the primary reason, the main reason to take HRT was to prevent heart attacks. But when the WHI study came out in 2002 and scared everybody to death, they switched them. They flipped it around and they decided that the primary reason to take HRT was only for severe symptoms of menopause, and that preventing heart attacks was only secondary. Now, I don't know about you, but symptoms like hot flashes never killed anybody, but heart attacks kill 1 out of 2 women. So I don't think it was a good switch. It all happened that way because of fear. Everybody was so afraid that they flipped everything around to accommodate the public's fear of HRT and the medical profession's fear of litigation. So, but I have taught you that everything, absolutely everything, has both benefits and risks. Your job is to apply the information to your personal situation in order to choose management options that offer you the most benefits and the fewest risks. And of course, since you're not a robot, your situation may and probably will change as you age. So this podcast builds on the last. Everything I do builds one block on top of the next. And the last time I talked about why there was so much confusion about HRT and heart attacks. And this podcast is all about heart attacks after stopping, after discontinuing HRT. This is an important thing. It may not sound like a big deal, but it's very, very, very important. You see, everything is about expectations. Listening to this podcast will set your expectations for dealing with the entire rest of your life, in which you will need to deal with the fact that you may have to consider whether or not to stop HRT someday. So there's no rule on how long you can take HRT. Some women take it forever. Other women stop it. You need to know what the differences are with regard to your heart and your risk for heart attack. In the last 3 podcasts, I've discussed the hormonal options for preventing a heart attack, the research on hormones for preventing a heart attack, and the confusion on hormones and heart attack. And you already know that it's so critical to learn everything I teach you in order if you want to avoid staying as confused as you've always been. So this podcast is going to address what happens to your risk of heart attack if and when you stop taking HRT. Day after day, when I respond to comments on my video, my YouTube channel, I encounter women who were taking HRT but stopped it. And they always lament about the fact that all their symptoms of menopause returned when they stopped HRT. They find themselves right back in the throes of hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, fatigue, forgetfulness, mood swings, an itchy vagina, and the list goes on and on and on. Their relationships are strained. Their marriages are on the brink of divorce. They're having difficulty interacting with their friends. They're withdrawing from society. They're depressed. On and on. So I'm going to address what happens to your risk of heart attack if you stop taking HRT after you've taken it for a while. I mean, think about it. If you take HRT and your symptoms go away, and then you stop HRT and your symptoms come back, don't you think there could be something that happens with regard to your risk for a heart attack that differs from being on HRT to stopping it? So, even though I always tell you to learn everything in order, I still like to give you a review because I think it's helpful to get you oriented to the topic of the day. So when it comes to a review for our topic today, you've seen that arteries that build up with lipid, which we call atherosclerosis, is what causes heart attacks at menopause. And it is progressive. Little by little, year after year, it gets worse. But it takes time. When someone discovers that she has an artery that is 90% clogged, it did not happen overnight. A lot of things contributed over a long period of time. And there is a very long list of risk factors that contribute to clogging of your arteries. The list includes a previous heart attack yourself, smoking, high lousy LDL, low healthy HDL, a total cholesterol to HDL ratio of greater than 4, high triglycerides, obesity, fat in your abdominal area, high blood pressure, diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, gum disease, a high homocysteine level, depression, and a family history of heart attacks. Now, let's look at which of those factors tend to be things that you control day after day, either through your diet or your lifestyle. Let's see. Smoking, high lousy LDL, low healthy HDL, your total cholesterol to HDL ratio, your triglycerides, obesity, fat in your abdomen, high blood pressure, diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, gum disease, and high homocysteine level. My. This means that you control the vast majority of them. So if you continue your typical diet and lifestyle that caused lipids to build up in your arteries in the first place, your arteries will slowly get clogged. And when an artery gets so clogged that blood and oxygen cannot get past the clog, that's when you have a heart attack. Now, hold that thought for a moment. Let's review what you learned about research studies on menopause and heart attacks. You learned that what set the stage for all the research were the observations that women did not have heart attacks until they became postmenopausal. And even young women who became prematurely menopausal had heart attacks. And women who became menopausal by surgical means had heart attacks. Then you learned that women who took HRT at the time of postmenopause did not have heart attacks. And women who took HRT before they had any clogging of their arteries with atherosclerosis never developed atherosclerosis. All of that adds up to the conclusion that estrogen prevents buildup of lipids in your heart arteries. And it's the loss of estrogen that causes the lipids to build up rapidly at postmenopause. Now, why is that? Because the loss of estrogen marks the beginning of the aging process for your heart arteries. You know, it's really no different than any other part of your body. Think about it. When you lose your estrogen, your skin starts looking old. Your hair starts looking old. Your joints start feeling old. Your vagina gets old. Your bones get old. And your brain gets old. So estrogen was your fountain of youth. When it's gone, your arteries start the process of aging and they become hard over time. And in the last podcast, you learned that the big critical factor is timing. If you take HRT early in your postmenopause before atherosclerosis develops, it prevents the aging process altogether. But if you take HRT late in your postmenopause after atherosclerosis has already developed, it does not prevent the aging process, and it can even cause a heart attack. So I ask you, what do you think will happen if you take HRT for a few years and then stop it? Do you think that taking it for a few years is going to change any of the principles I just stated? Of course not. You will have deferred the aging process for a few years. And when you stop HRT, the aging process will proceed. So you may have postponed a heart attack. But to think that you've made yourself immune to a heart attack is pure fantasy. I live in a world of reality. I teach you the truth. It's what you deserve, even if it's not what you want to hear. Now, whenever I tell you something like that, I like to give you statistics to back it up. So the statistics for how much and how quickly your risk of heart attack increases after stopping HRT come from Finland. You know, they do some really incredible research in Finland. And the research study that pertains here is a huge study that was conducted over 15 years with over 2 million women's years of follow-up. And it showed that within the very first year of discontinuing HRT, women younger than 60 years of age had a 2 to 3-fold increase in their risk of heart attack. Heart attacks skyrocketed in that very first of HRT. So this is not something to take lightly. The risk of heart attack is fast and significant as soon as you discontinue HRT. So let's apply this principle to some of the mantras and practices that may govern how long you take HRT. I've given you a talk on mantras, and you know that many doctors practice according to some very inadequate mantras despite the inadequacy. So let's see how well these mantras serve you in the context of HRT and heart attacks. One of the most common mantras is, take the lowest dosage of HRT for the shortest period of time. This mantra is very common among all doctors who are not menopause specialists. They just don't know any better. There are really two parts to it. I'll discuss them separately to see how well they serve your desire to prevent a heart attack.